Good day and welcome to today's Conversation podcast. Today I'm privileged to host one of Zambia's youngest presidential candidate, Andyford Mayele Banda. He says he believes strongly that our economic structure is not working for the good of the majority of Zambians. He's expressed concern over the rising poverty levels, the high cost of living, and the unemployment rate, especially for young people. I invited him today for you and I to know who Andyford Mayele Banda is. Mr. Banda, welcome to today's Conversation podcast.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, and good day to the viewers out there. I'm grateful for this invitation.
You were the youngest candidate in the 2016 presidential election. I think you were 35 at the time, just the threshold to which you are allowed to stand as a presidential candidate. Many Zambians are interested to know who is Andyford. What makes him? How come he went into politics this young? Just tell us about yourself.
Yeah, basically, I've had a passion for politics for quite some time. When I trace my background from school, when I was in grade 8, grade 9, I used to like reading encyclopedias, reading about Martin Luther King, Kenneth Kaunda, Malcolm X and all that kind of thing. So, and then when I finished school, I think my interest was gravitating towards, political stories. And I was very good in history at school. So I think it comes from a passion, really, more than anything else. It's something that I'd really wanted to do from childhood. But I had a problem. I had some kind of something that was blocking me from fully dreaming about becoming a politician. It has to do with my religious background. I come from a Jehovah's Witness family.
Ah, okay.
My parents,
the Jehovah's Witnesses are not allowed to participate
both my parents.
Active politics.
Yeah.
To some extent, you don't even sing the national anthem.
Yeah, so both my parents were Jehovah's Witnesses. They are late. May their souls rest in peace. And so I used to tell myself that, if I was not a Jehovah's Witness, I can be president of Zambia.
Yeah.
So, but with time, that passion used to trouble me. I would write ideas in my diary, about what the government needs to do to actually spur, job creation, to do, to support small businesses and stuff like that. Actually, I wrote an article, I think 8 years before politics in the Daily Mail, in 2011 actually. 2011, that was like 4 years before politics, where I talked about how you can create more jobs. So it's just been that passion. So yeah, so it's been a passion that that has driven me to actually join politics and to contribute, to the betterment of the country. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Where did you go to school?
Basically, I grew up, part of my childhood was in Tendere. So part of my primary school was at Tendere Primary from grade 1 to 6. And then my father got a job in Zesco, so we moved to Kafio Gorge. That's why I spent a bit of time there, but most of it I was in boarding in Southern Province. I went to Zimba Secondary School, junior, and then when we passed, some of us who were doing business classes, we were taken to Kalomo Secondary School.
Do you speak Tonga, since you spent a lot of time there?
Yeah, I speak Tonga not only because I spent time in Southern Province, but because my mom was Tonga.
Oh, okay.
My father's mother was Lenje.
Yes.
So I speak Chewa, I speak Tonga, I speak Lenje.
Yeah.
And in interacting with these people from the north,
yes.
I speak a bit of
some Bemba.
Some Bemba. I speak Bemba. I mean, I've got a bad accent, but I do speak. Yeah. So I did some school there. Then after Kalomo, I was at Zikas, where I did my part of my accountancy, part of it, through correspondence. So basically that's the short of my education.
Your education now, okay.
Yeah.
Your professional background?
Yeah. So I worked for a company called, first I started my internship with Zesco.
Yes.
I was in internal audit. I worked there for 1 year. I got bored because they didn't want to give me a permanent job. So I didn't want to continue on, on internship. Of course, some of my friends that continued, they got jobs later, but I just said, 1 year. I keep pleading to get a job and they're not giving me. Let me go and try something else.
Yeah.
So I was in the streets for a few months, and then I was lucky enough to get a job with a company called Selpe. It was one of the first mobile banking platforms. It was owned by Celtel at first, and then it was transferred to First Round African Emerging Markets, who are the owners of FNB, and then they also sold it, to the management at some point. So I worked with Selpe for about 2 years in Zambia, and then I also worked 2 years.
Selpe was promoting, I think, first mobile banking. Yes.
I worked for Selpe 2 years in Zambia, then I also worked for Selpe 2 years in Kinshasa. Yeah. So
you went to set up a similar infrastructure in...
It was already there, so I was just seconded there to go and head the finance department. Yeah, so I was an expatriate in Kinshasa for 2 years.
You lived in Kinshasa?
I lived in Kinshasa. I lived in Kinshasa actually for 4 years. So 2 years with Selpe, 2 years with a South African company called Bensizwe. So both companies I was heading the finance department. Yeah. So Selpe, I worked for companies like Associated Printers as the chief accountant. I worked for Amagat Security as internal audit manager. And then I got bored with work, and then I told myself, I need to start doing something of my own, because sooner or later I have to get into the political arena, and you cannot get into the
That word, you got bored, you've repeated it twice, you got bored with the work
because I think
at Zesco, you got bored while you were in Kinshasa. It's a very big word amongst young people. It makes them migratory workers. They rarely spend so much time with one institution. What causes that?
Yeah, basically for
using
me,
your case.
My case, I think for me, I worked for I think a total of 7 years or 8 years. Of course, that is it does not include being a consultant. Yeah. But in those 7, 8 years, I worked for, I think, 3 or 4 companies. Because, I think I couldn't settle anywhere. For example, I'll tell you that when I was when I'd stopped working for Associated Printers as chief accountant, I told my boss that I just want to do my own stuff. But, to just settle, on the streets, it's not easy. No. So things became so tough, that I had to go and look for another job. So now, as audit manager with Amagat Security. So when
I'm raising that issue.
I'm coming to that.
Yeah, I'm raising that issue because we have literally an army of young people who are looking for jobs, and jobs are very difficult. But the few that get it tend to be migratory. And also to speak to, just as to inform young people that leaving a job without another job sometimes is quite difficult, like you are just demonstrating. Speak to that.
Yeah, so, basically, I was trying to do things of my own, but it was quite difficult. So when I was joining Amagat Security as internal audit manager, I had to go back to my former boss, Mr. Peter Frost, to tell him that, sir, I need a recommendation. I'm joining Amagat as internal audit manager. This is the same person who had told that I'm leaving because I want to go and do my own stuff.
Yeah.
So he told me point blank that you're not going to last where you're going because it's not you, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I joined Amagat and I was there for 6 months. Of course, I was fired because I was involved in an accident with a company car. You know, it was politics and stuff. But,
okay.
But after that, because the time I spent with Amagat for 6 months, I believe that I contributed so much to the company. I was internal audit. It was a new department. I think within 6 months, I saved them almost 500,000 kwacha, you know, through internal audits and stuff like that. So, like, for them to actually, you know, get rid of me over an insured vehicle, which at the time, I remember the value of the car was less than 50,000, and yet I'd saved them over 500,000. I just said it was silly, and I thought, you know, I will never be appreciated, you know, in the workspace. So that's when I said, enough of working, and that was goodbye. So I've been on the street, you know, for 13 years.
Now as an entrepreneur.
Coming to that answer, I think people get bored with jobs because really most people, they don't do things they love. You know, they'll just be, you know, advised, you know, their parents of what they should do, which is not correct. I think that is where we're missing it as a country. You know, we
Did you go into accountancy as your passion, or because maybe your parents wanted you to be an accountant?
My parents didn't advise me what to do. Really.
Okay.
First of all, when we moved to Kafia Gorge in the early 90s, I was in engineering environment.
Yes.
You know, where you know, electrical engineers, civil engineers, mechanical engineers, you know, electricians and the technicians and all that kind of thing. So I started feeling like, you know what, I think I should become an engineer. So when I went to Kaloma Secondary School, I said, you know, I'm going to even do pure sciences. So I was even in 12D, you know, a class that, you know, does pure sciences because I wanted to gravitate towards engineering. But in that same class, you know, one of the subjects I was taking was accounts. So I loved accounts so much that I used
more than the sciences.
More than the sciences, yeah. You know, I found the sciences to be boring.
Yeah.
You know, so I think accounts has been a passion for me.
Okay.
I loved it, but working has not been a passion. Like a 8 to 5 job. You know, sometimes when I was working for Zesco or when I was working for Selpe, you know, or any other company, you know, you'd be at work at 8:30, and then your boss like, why are you late? Why are you late?
Yeah.
But you don't even have anything to do. You get the point? So I used to find it like, why?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have work to do. Maybe probably month end is gone. You've done the reports. You know, it's just, you know, just normal day-to-day things. But someone wants to get upset with you coming late, not because, you know, you've got things to do, but because it's a norm, you know. You have to get, so I found it so routine.
No, in Europe and US, in fact, and now you see it mostly in banks, is that they recognized the young people that they've changed the workspace. You know, the rigid format of 8 to 17 may no longer work.
Yeah, and you see, it's a
so
colonial,
maybe if
it's a colonial kind of nonsense. You know, like it comes from colonialism and stuff like that. You know, and I think that is one of the things that colonialism left us. You know, it's very difficult for us to actually just do things differently because things have been done like this. So
you have to fit in.
You have to fit in.
Or
you have to continue doing like
discipline.
That. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is one thing that you know, the colonial system left us, and I'm sure as we go we'll discuss, you know, how the colonial system has also affected our economic system.
So the workspace, as prescribed by employers, was not good for you.
No.
You say you've been on the streets, meaning you've been your own boss, you've been an entrepreneur for the last 18 years.
a number of businesses. You know,
and running other businesses.
One thing I told myself, you know, I can tell you for a fact that a lot of people that are wealthy or who are deemed to be wealthy, they're entrepreneurs in this country. You know, there are a few entrepreneurs, and that's why you see that one of my...
Tell our viewers the difference between an entrepreneur and a tenderpreneur.
Yeah, basically, a tenderpreneur is a pet bourgeois, someone who actually depends on government contracts, government relationships, being in good books with government. There's no creativity really, in being a tenderpreneur. An entrepreneur are people that run businesses, that they create businesses. That's one thing I love, creating business. But, in an environment like ours, I've got maybe 5 projects that I have right now in the energy sector, in the financial services sector, probably in the technology sector, but it's very difficult. And me being a politician doesn't make it any easy.
Yeah.
Get the point? I can't walk in a government office and people will just look at me and say, oh, yeah,
you want to read
Banda,
your last Twitter post?
They're like, hey, this one is not a friend of the government. So that's the difference. So, and that's what the problem is. Because we have not created a space where people can, follow their passions. This is what, we were talking to earlier. You find that, the government advertises for teachers. 100,000 teachers will apply because when people at home and they're conversating, they'll tell them, go and do teaching because that's where you're going to find a job. It's not because they love teaching.
No.
I loved what Rachel Kundananji said, when she was being interviewed by BBC recently when, she became the most expensive female player in the world. She said people must learn to follow their dreams. You get the point?
Yeah.
It's not easy. You look stupid and stuff like that. Just like us, we looked stupid when we started the People's Alliance for Change.
Yeah.
That, why can't you just join another political party?
Yeah.
But that's where my passion is. So people must learn to actually follow their passions. But I do understand our environment, does not really give space to people to do what they love, to discover themselves, to do things that they love. And, the environment is quite difficult. So that's why you find that
a lot of people, we've been speaking entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And yes, yet our schooling and our school curriculum doesn't even teach you. In fact, maybe 90% of what you know as an entrepreneur is not something you picked from school.
I didn't pick anything from school about entrepreneurship.
Just speak to that.
It's about mistakes, about failure, And we live in a society where failure is not accepted. I mean, I've not seen any person, especially a lot of wealthy people, especially in America. I like, there's some things I don't like about America, but I've got respect for the entrepreneurship aspect of it. And I've read, stories about Elon Musk, Barack Obama, Michael Jordan. A lot of these guys, they have failed. Like they were at their worst at some point. Barack Obama was broke 7 years before he became the president of the United States. Elon Musk was almost bankrupt about 14, 15 years ago. Almost bankrupt, But in this country, because we are tuned in a certain way, the mindset is wrong. People don't like people chasing big dreams. When big dream chasers fail, everyone will be talking, in the streets and say, look at that one. Like for me, like when I started, chasing entrepreneurship,
people were waiting for you to fail.
No, I did fail actually.
Yeah.
I did fail. And people are like, maona manje. Benzo sebenza chemushe. Manje hapa basia nchito atofuna nkara wa businessman, onani kwenye vapereka. But I didn't go back to the office. Yeah. I persevered.
Kept on trying.
I liked what Sean Carter said, Jay-Z. He said the genius thing that we did is that we never gave up. Yeah. That's the only secret,
Don't give
up. That's the only secret to success. Even in politics, Ambassador, you know how difficult it is. We have to sacrifice our personal resources. Sometimes, our children, don't even have the best life, for this. Because we are doing something for the country. This is our passion, but we don't give up. I like reading what I read a book by the late Francis Kaunda, where he was talking about visiting Dr. the former president Kenneth Kaunda, in the struggle, and he believes that the reason why Tilyenji Kaunda was named Tilyenji is because. It was tough.
It was tough.
They could not have anything to eat, and then the child is born, said, we don't have enough food. TDNG. You get the point?
Yeah.
So we need to actually build that kind of environment, where people are able to dream, people who fail are not laughed at, they are encouraged, to keep fighting. We need to actually move away from what we know to something different. And I think we are lacking that.
Have you paid attention or have you given thought of what we should do to our education system to recognize this hostile environment and prepare students and graduates for this kind of environment? I say this because our people are prepared for jobs that don't exist in the market. They pursue their secondary education and their university education and stand on a queue for a job. No one is prepared to be an entrepreneur. No one is pushed for innovations. No one is prepared to be an employer.
Basically, one thing you should know is that I was reading another book. I like reading, by the way.
Oh, wonderful.
I was reading a book by Phil Knight, the person who created Shoe Dog. Who created Nike. Phil Knight, he created Nike.
Nike, the shoe brand.
The shoe brand, the
apparel brand, yes.
He said that there's nowhere in the education system that tells you how to make shoes. They had to learn everything, as they were going. It was tough for them to build that brand. Right now the guy is worth $40 billion. So, we can encourage people to go to school and learn. Let them learn what they should learn. But of course, they should remove syllabuses that tells us about American mountains, European mountains. We don't need that nonsense.
Or the Great Lakes of Canada.
You know what I mean? Or Canada, whatever, the climate of Canada. We don't need that. But ultimately, for you to follow your vision or your passion, there's no way you're going to learn that. You have to just follow it. You learn along the way. You learn as you go. You know what I mean? Go
and be ready to fail.
And be ready to fail.
Actually, fail so many times sometimes.
The biggest lessons are in failure, That's what the biggest lessons are.
What did you learn when you failed?
What did I learn when I failed? First of all, one thing that, I've failed many times in my life. And every time I'm back up, I tell myself that, oh my God, if I did not fail, I was not going to be here. I said, I thank God that I failed. That's why I'm here. I think there's also, Michael Jordan says, I've missed thousands and thousands and thousands shots. That's why I succeed,
Wow.
So there's just strength that you get, courage that you get in failure, And I've told myself, how are you going to be strong if you don't fail? If life is just, normal for you, that's why you find a lot of people, they just go and work in the government. I've refused to work for the government.
As a personal choice.
I've never applied for a job in the government. I've never applied for a tender in the government. I've refused to do that. It's a personal choice. One of the reasons was, one, I found the government to be so boring. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that, it's not my passion. It's me. I'm talking about myself. Yeah. I'm not saying that people that work for the government like you. You didn't have anything to do. I'm just saying for myself. I found that government job was not going to happen for me. The other thing that I did, I refused to work for a big company. If you look at Selpe, it was like I was doing almost
like a
everything.
Startup. Yeah.
A startup, and I find a lot of lessons. Actually, I was very lucky, when I moved from Zesco, where I was working in internal audit, and then I moved to Selpe. It's like I was starting afresh. I would go there and say, you know what, I've got 1 year experience with Zesco. And, someone would think like, oh yeah, he knows something. But when I was working for internal audit, I was just doing routine jobs. Yeah. You get a point,
Felt like a robot.
But when I went to Selpe, I started doing real work. Doing payroll, doing, financial reports, management reports, doing weekly reports, dealing with petty cash, a lot of things. So, and after that, I said, I'm not going to work for a big company. It was a personal choice. So, failure, experience, you find it along the way. It strengthens you. It teaches you certain tricks. There's no person. But
to be on your own and to be an entrepreneur, to be your own boss, you require a lot of discipline. You don't work, the money doesn't come in. You squander time, the money doesn't come in.
But the beautiful thing about it is that...
So how do you keep that discipline?
No, the beautiful thing that if that's your passion, every day you want to do something that will give you money, and it's something that you're doing for yourself. No one is telling you, said, hey, can you wake up and go and do this? You wake up at 9 o'clock or 10 if you want. If sometimes you work at 4, you work in the night, 02, you sleep at 5, wake up at 10, you would have finished whatever you needed to do. Maybe you don't even have to work that day and all that kind of thing, So it's about passion. And I don't mean that people shouldn't work for the government or for the private sector. It's about what you love. There are people that love being in the government. They love that job. They love, to do things that happen in the government. There are people that, love to be bankers. They love the banking sector. There are people that, love to do whatever. So at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that people should learn to take risks. They should not, be in this box, that was created. And if people learn to study more about themselves, they'll be very upset about themselves, because they'll realize that actually this box was just created, for them, like not to move, and stuff like that.
Oh, wonderful. Let's transition to politics. How did you go to politics?
Like I mentioned, passion, but also I must say that in 2015, the country was facing a lot of challenges. You people had just come into government. You didn't inspire us, to tackle those challenges, sorry to say. And the opposition did not inspire us either. So we thought that, the country needed something new.
What were the challenges, in your view, as a 2011?
In 2015.
In 2015,
Because we started the process of registration in 2015.
Okay.
By then I was even 34. I was not even qualified to run for president.
Okay.
But so
what are the challenges that have now prompted you that I'm going for it? I need to make a change to my country.
The same challenges that we're still facing. For example, load shedding, if you listen to the president's address last week, it's a warning, that one of the things we have to do is to ration electricity. It's a warning that load shedding will be back very soon. You get the point? Any time from now, actually. I was even thinking there's something I'm working on, and I was like, you know what? I need to move quickly, because very soon, this power will not be there, So, there's load shedding. It was there in 2015, the exchange rate was, the Zambian kwacha was depreciating at, it was in free fall in 2015, unemployment. I remember one of the things that rattled me was the fact that, the Zambia Air Force advertised for 400 or 500 jobs. They received almost 70,000 applications. I knew that there's something wrong here. So, and then there were no solutions on the table, really, to focus on those things. When we looked at the opposition, and first of all, we thought that, probably things can get worse.
When you say when we, who are the we?
Me and my group, the people that we formed, the people we formed the party with. When we looked at the opposition, we were not inspired either.
Okay.
So we said, it's time to start actually offer something different. We needed to change our politics. We needed to focus more on the solutions. We looked at the opposition and the ruling party. Their focus was more on politics, not on the solutions. So that's how we said, we are going to come up with the National Alliance for Change. So when we went to the Registrar of Society, we are lucky. We are luckier than UCA. They just told us to change the name I think there's a party called National Alliance. So they said, no, there's a party called National Alliance. So what is there something you can change for national? I said, okay, put People's Alliance. And thank God that People's Alliance, moved. So one of the reasons why we were talking about alliance was that also when we looked at alliances that time, they were just marriages of convenience. So we thought, we needed to build a political party that was going to be in an alliance with the people.
Okay.
You get the point? Because, if you, Ambassador and myself, we form a party, and we are supposed to win the elections, you expect a job from me, even if you're not competent.
Yeah.
You get the point. So that is the
It's
problem.
an alliance.
Yeah, so because I know these are people in the alliance, so give them jobs, you know. You know, and this is why Africa is where it is today, you know. So we wanted to build an alliance. We still are on those principles. You know, we want to build an alliance with the people. We want to make sure that as we get into government, there are no commitments. You know, so that by Emmanuel Mwamba, Minister of Information. We need to look at competence and say, you know what, we're going to look at competence, and we want to work with people, you know, that are going to actually look at it from that perspective. There's no problem with you and us working together, fighting for the country, you know, getting there, as long as we're going to build, you know, a government that is going to work for everyone.
And you formed the party. Why did you decide to go to the top? Why didn't you say, maybe I'll start as a councillor, or maybe I'll start as an MP, I'll identify a constituency. Why did you go right to the top?
I didn't have solutions for a constituency.
Okay.
I didn't have. I believe that most of the things I was thinking about, or we were thinking about, you know, involved, you know, at the country level, you know, and we're still talking about the same things. You know, there was a time actually, I sent an email, maybe to you, and to the late Willie Sander.
Yeah.
In 2015, I said, we can help you build this kind of messaging. I saw that email a few weeks ago, and I was so shocked, you know, that the same things that we were talking about, you know, in 2015.
What were your proposed solutions then?
Same, you know, agriculture sector. We need to go and, you know, work with the small farmers, you know, entrepreneurship, you know, job creation, you know, the same things that we talk about nowadays, you know. So it is a belief system. It is a religion, you know. If you look at our billboards in the last election, you will find that there was jobs, land, and empowerment. That is what they were saying. And those are things that we believe in, you know. We need to actually ensure that people have got land, you know. Once we give people land, you know, they can, as an entitlement for starters, as Zambians, you know, because most of the land in this country is owned by the same people. You know, so we want to actually ensure that we come up with land reforms, you know, where each and every person, you know, has got an opportunity, you know, to get land. I think a few weeks ago or 2 months ago, there was a video that surfaced of the Minister of Land, you know, talking about, you know, we'll give land to the UPND cadres, you know, and that's been the mentality. You know, when a government comes in, they want to start first giving land, a reward system, and that is where the problem is, you know. So you find that a lot of people have got land which they don't even need. You know, a lot of people, for them to access land is because they're connected to to the political party. You find that people that, you know, are campaigning, maybe for a councillor, because they feel like the councillor can help them, you know, access land and stuff like that. So that shouldn't be the case. You know, we need a system that, you know, awards land to people that are not political, you know, people that are not connected to politicians, and you know, a fair system. You know, so that is one of the things. But also, on the other hand, we believe that there are a lot of people that have got passion for agriculture, you know, that don't have an opportunity to actually get into that sector, but they don't have land, you know. So we need to give them an opportunity, you know, to actually venture into agriculture. Then when you talk about empowerment, a lot of Zambian businesses, they don't have a support base. That's why they're failing. There's no system that helps Zambian businesses. The banks are not giving money. The banks are making 70% of profit lending to the government. Yeah. They're not actually impacting the Zambian economy. So we can say no banks. I heard the Minister of Finance talking about banks doing well. Doing well? Yes. When they're actually just loaning you the government. Can you call that doing well? You know, so, and these banks are foreign-owned banks, so they are happy, you know, to actually reduce their risk to almost zero and sit in their chairs looking nice, wearing ties and miniskirts, you know, but they are not impacting. And that's the reason why we also argue to say graphs don't make sense. You know, in that regard, you can have a graph to say that, no, the banks actually increase their profit. Yeah. But what was the impact on the ground? You get the point? So there's no support system for Zambian businesses. Also, Zambian businesses needs to be empowered. We're not just looking at small businesses. We're looking at business people, you know, that run, for example, insurance companies, maybe Madison, which is a Zambian company, you know, Copper Belt Energy Corporation. We need to support those businesses so that they can actually be in Africa, they're multinational. They should become multinational. You know, a lot of these businesses, they go to other countries on their own without government support. It's their own initiatives.
Yeah.
You know, there's no initiative from the government to actually support these businesses as they go and invest in other countries. So that is the empowerment we're talking about. We're also, and then once we empower...
When you joined politics and you set your eyes on 2016,
Yes.
that you were going to stand as a presidential candidate, you joined in a political ecosystem where you found all these leaders. How did you find the politics? Young people have difficulties to penetrate that kind of politics. One, first, resources are quite limited. Number two, the young people are just not empowered. They are mostly on the terraces, either as voters or sometimes, you know, they are used as tools for the bigger politicians and the leaders. How did you find that ecosystem?
It's quite difficult. I mean, it starts with the journalists. They will first ignore you at every turn because you can't, you know, make news. Who is going to listen to Andyford Banda? Who is Andyford Banda? He just started a political party 6 months ago, and we should get news from him. You know, so you have to persevere. And thank God that 2016. But, you know, I wanted to, I was actually, I don't know what was going through my mind. I just felt like I was going to be number 3 in that election.
Yeah.
So I was very hurt when I came out number 4. I won't lie, you know. And, you know, there was a time I was talking to the former president, Banda. I said, Andyford Banda, you did very well. You get the point. So I think for me it was a break. And that's, I mean, we all need some luck sometimes, you know, in life. I mean, especially when we are pushing for our passions. And like your question says, you know, the environment was quite difficult. But what really has motivated us through and through is the fact that what we are offering is what the country needs, and we have to stick with it. And if you have followed our politics,
that's solutions on land,
yes, jobs and empowerment.
And empowerment.
If you follow our politics, we have not diverted from the things we've been talking about from the time we started. We launched the party on January 10th, 2016 at Intercontinental Hotel. From that day up to now, we have not diverted. We're still talking about the same things. It was noise, you know. Maybe people couldn't pay attention to us, especially, you know, during the PF UPND competition. And that's the reason why, you know, young people need to persevere because, you know, things evolve, things change. You know, the 2021 elections changed the political dynamics. And the performance of the UPND government today has created anxiety in the minds of many people, or many Zambians, to say, okay, where have we gone wrong as a country? We've had so many presidents. And then we elected an economist, we elected a farmer, we elected a businessman, but the economy is in shambles, the farming sector is in shambles, the business sector is in shambles. Yeah. So people are confused. Yeah. You know, so we need to actually, you know, tell them, you know, that those things, they don't matter. What matters is a vision, you know, that people have. You know, people can copy Google, you know, they can paste, you know, about climate change. They don't even mean what they're saying. Yeah. So people need to pay attention. Actually, if I were to advise the Zambian people, they need to go back, you know, to 2016 and listen and listen. And when you see that someone is consistent about what they're talking about, you know, then you have an opportunity to believe those people. Also, is that I'm happy, you know, that now our message is becoming clearer. You know, people now, you know, PF is not making too much noise. You know, people are looking for solutions. They're looking for a position that they can lean to, you know, and I believe that, you know, people are actually, you know, I know that a lot of people feel like politics is about, you know, being tough, you know, insulting the government. You know, you can tell the government, you know, the truth. Yeah. Like, I think that, you know, the declaration of the drought as a national disaster is a joke.
Oh, speak to that quickly.
You get the point? You know, and it's not like I'm trying to just make the government look bad. It's a joke.
Mm-hmm.
You can ask a lot of questions to say, what were these guys thinking when they were coming to government?
Mm-hmm.
What was their plan? When it comes to the agriculture sector, they're self-professed farmers. Hey, we are farmers. We are farmers. We are farmers. But, the country can't even feed itself. What should be the crisis today? The crisis today should be lack of export of maize, not lack of food to eat. That is not a crisis. It's a joke. It's a failure. It's an indictment on them to say that you have failed. It's 2 years and a half. This is when, I was listening to the president. Mr. President, this is when you're realizing that you should actually, be empowering farmers with irrigation systems. No, it's like God is saying, you've been talking about this for a long time. It's now you do it. I'm like, really? And people should be clapping for that.
Yeah. The PF government, between 2015 and 2021, they had 3 major droughts. The worst was the El Nino one, which was the worst in 2015. The worst in the last 30 years. They didn't declare a disaster.
But the point is that
there was a drought in 2017 and I think 2020. So sometimes it's how you manage the resources you have.
I think I remember which year was that we even delayed to plant as well. I think going to 2021, we did delay to plant. And also, going to 2022. So the thing is that, the government has actually made a lot of, mistakes. First of all, if you remember very well, Ambassador, in 2018, somewhere there, the news diggers, they did invite 5 political parties, to actually give solutions on what they're going to do if they're voted in 2021. There was the UPND, there was PF, there was PAC, there was NAREP, I think there was also NDC, or between NDC and the DP. I think DP came later, but I think there was NDC. Because when NAREP fell off from from providing solutions, DP came in. And I think the people that saw the writings to the end, it was just PF, UPND, and PAC. Most of these guys, they fell off. I think they ran out of stories. But you see, the point I'm trying to drive is that in a lot of articles, first of all, I remember there was an article I wrote where I was saying, agriculture, a quick win, where we were advising the PF government, say that, look, invest in the agriculture sector. This is a quick win. You can actually create jobs. You can do this and this and that. And we talked about, giving irrigation systems to farmers, so that they can actually diversify their crop. Because there's so much poverty in the rural areas. And one of the reasons why there's poverty, because these people are dependent on one income. And that income is on the maize production through rain-fed maize. So they have to wait for the rains. They plant, they sell and keep, some for their food, and that's the only way. And that poverty is there. Because when we go for campaigns, you hear people telling you to say, no, donate for us. We're trying to build a school, a community school, or we're trying to build a mother's shelter, or we're trying to put water and stuff like that. You know why? Because those people don't have income. So the best way to actually sort out some of these problems is to empower people with their own income. Because if those villagers, they have their own income, they would contribute, because they always contribute. And you find that when you get to those places that maybe they've already built a school, using their own, resources. So they just want you to help them maybe to put a malata, to buy them, timber, to buy them maybe burglar bars and stuff like that. They would have put. So you can imagine those people are, empowered, they're given, irrigation system. Outside that, we all wrote about climate change. So we should have prepared. On top of that, on the 9th of November, I appeared on 5FM. And I said the government needs to start preparing, because it looks like it's going to be a dry spell. I don't have the machinery that the government has. The government has got a Minister of Green Economy, they've got the Meteorological Department, they've got the Minister of Agriculture, they've got all these machinery at their disposal that they can use to actually detect. Declaring a disaster without a plan. I read the statement to Parliament 2-3 weeks ago, where the Minister of Green Economy was saying, no, the government has dispatched a multidisciplinary team to go and check the impact of the disaster 2-3 weeks ago. They didn't have a plan. So, and this is a government with all this machinery. They should have had a plan last year.
Yeah.
Because it was clear.
And it was predicted.
It was predictable.
And El Nino effect.
You get the point? It was predictable. And even the Met Department had actually told them that there's likely going to be a dry spell. I don't know why they thought things were going to change. You know, when science had actually told them that already. On top of that, the president, in his address to the country, end of the year, he said that, you know, we're going to do bumper harvest. We're going to make sure that every day is a planting, every month is a planting month because people have invited me to come and launch a planting season.
Yes.
He said, no, we should stop that, you know, because we need to make every month a planting month.
Yeah.
You get the point? That was like over 2 months ago. So by the time he was addressing the nation, he should have told us what he did with that speech between then and now. Because, it shouldn't just be speeches. It shouldn't just be encouragement. These should be deliberate plans. So I believe that, you know, the European government are taking this country for a ride. 2.5 years of the European government. I think there's a lot of jokes around. On top of that, you know, they are relying too much on the mining sector. First of all, the copper production, the copper output in the last 2 years has fallen by almost 200,000, metric tons. They think that they're just going to wake up and find the 200,000. The best they can do between now and 2026 is to recover that 200,000. They're not going to do more than that. That I can assure them. We're going end of first quarter. You know, this is March.
Yeah.
KCM, there's still nothing happening there. There's no vendetta. You know, the only thing they did to just make things look like they're happening, say, no, vendettas released $25 million so that us opposition should keep quiet, say, no, fresh to cook, you know? So, you know, the UPND are playing the wrong politics, you know, and then they bring cobalt metals. Cobalt metals, you know, it's a sad story. It's just that people don't know.
You spoke about that.
Cobalt metals, you know, it's like colonialism. It's a scramble for Zambia. You know, you see, people need to understand the history, you know, of Africa and where these things are coming from.
Yeah.
You know, what caused colonialism was the demand for raw materials.
Resources, yes.
You get the point? So there was a boom, you know, industrial whatever, you know, in Europe and stuff. In fact, that's what caused, you know, slave trade, you know, because they needed more labor. So when technology improved, they said, no, we don't need slave trade now. We need materials. So let's go and exploit them in their backyard.
Yeah.
You get the point? So our economic system has been set up like that, you know, from the 1800s up to now, where we just produce raw materials. Yeah. You know, and you know, Europe is benefiting from our raw materials, and they try to use our weaknesses, you know, our tribes, you know, to create division so that they can continue with that kind of nonsense. So now, cobalt metals, they said they've got this artificial intelligence technology, which helps them to actually discover minerals. Now, one thing that's dangerous about cobalt metals is the fact that they don't license that technology to anyone. So when they discover minerals, they have to mine the minerals. Are you with me? Yeah. So whatever minerals cobalt is going to discover using their intelligence, they'll mine those minerals. So I'm like, you know, what were the government people thinking? Yeah. Yeah. I would rather we just use manual systems to discover our own minerals. And even the same, is it Lubambe, you know, where they said they've discovered the biggest copper. We knew that there was copper there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was nothing discovery. New. Yes. So we are in a situation, with the attitude of the government towards foreign policy, where they are more gravitated towards the West, the Americans, and, you know, we are likely going to actually lease most of our minerals to the Americans, to cobalt metals, in the next few years, you know, like almost half of the country, because whatever minerals they will discover, whether it's gold, whether it's copper, using their artificial intelligence, which they don't license, they have to build a mine. They'll bring Bill Gates, they'll bring, you know, ever to come and invest in those mines, taking away minerals from this country.
With limited benefits to ourselves.
The question is that when are we going to develop? People don't understand this. How these economies, why Africa is too poor. Cobalt is a private company. Okay? And, they will make, for example, $100 million in a year as profit.
Yeah.
And they will pay income tax of about 30%, which is $30 million. So they'll give $30 million to the government through taxes.
Yeah.
And probably a few coins
that is
of
if they don't cheat
mineral
on
tax.
the tax. Yeah.
They'll definitely cheat. So if their net profit is 100 million, and if their profit before tax is 100 million, and they're paying 30%, so they pay 30 million to the government, they'll remain with how much? 70. That money, that 70 million, is not the government of their country's money. It is Cobalt's shareholders' money. It will be repatriated. 70 million will be invested in America through private sector investment, not from the government. The government is collecting taxes from other companies there.
Yeah, yeah.
So the Americans are double dealing. They're collecting taxes, and their companies are actually sending more money there.
Yeah, because they live there.
They live there. You get the point? Meanwhile, in this country, we are waiting for the government to collect taxes to develop the country. And when we tell these people that, look, empower Zambians to run these mines so that that money can remain here. So if that 100 million cobalt was owned by Zambians, it means that the mine will pay 30%, $30 million to the government. And then they'll invest the 70 million in the country. Are you with me?
Yeah, yeah.
They don't want to understand. And, they think that they can actually alleviate poverty by the president, jumping from one country to the next in the name of economic diplomacy, trying to find investors to come and invest in the agriculture sector, to come and invest in the mining sector, in the hope that he can actually develop the country using, income tax.
Yeah.
They can't.
They can't.
They cannot develop the country using income tax. The best way to develop the country is to actually, ensure that the private sector, Zambian owned.
Yeah.
There's no jealousy here. We can have 10 billionaires. It's fine. Let them, let them be Zambians because they will invest that money in Zambia. Who is so silly who can go and get their money and invest it in America? Yeah. They'll buy a flat, when they go with their families, they can live there. But most of it, they're like, you know what? Okay, we made 70 million, so what are we going to do? Okay, we are going to do this and this. We're going to actually, let's diversify. Yeah. Let's start building housing. Let's just, you're developing your own country. Yeah, yeah. Now, the mentality of the European government is we are going to develop the country based on tax. Yeah. Wrong.
Foreign investment.
Taxes will not develop. Private sector, Zambian owned, run. If you look at America's top 100 companies, I can say over 75% of them are owned by Americans. Yeah. Meaning that apart from monies that are coming from Zambia and other countries, they're investing that money in America.
In their country, they have a base.
They have a base. The government is collecting taxes from different companies, including foreign companies, and investing. And that's why, countries like America, the British and what, they're developing. Yeah. Yeah. But you see, people need to understand this model. It was designed like that. That's the reason why we're even failing to feed ourselves, because that is how the structure was designed. It was designed in the world that, Africa are going to be the primary source of raw materials using cheap labor. You get the point? Yeah. Now, what the colonialists did was that they created competition. So they built, industries in town and stuff like that. They took away people from their lands and sent them to go and work, in their plantations and stuff like that. So that's the reason why we have, rural-urban migration. Yeah. Because there's little opportunities there.
In the rural
They
areas.
distorted the system there. The system was working fine, but they forced people out of their lands, got their lands, and, push them to go and work in the mines, to go and work in whatever, industries that were producing raw materials.
Yeah.
And they came back after independence and they told us, you know what, you need to go for industrialization, so that you can create jobs for people. But do you know the industrialization? First of all, the populations were small. And there was no way those industries were going to survive, during that time.
Yeah.
Okay? Because they were talking about import substitution. And then for them, where they're coming from, they've got advanced machinery, most of their farmers and whatever products are subsidized.
Yeah.
So you find that, there's 2 bottles of water, one that's produced in Zambia, one produced in America. The one that's produced in America is cheaper than the one produced in Zambia. So
production costs are quite high.
Quite high. Because first of all, we have to import all these machineries. For them, the machineries are built are done there, are built in those places. So their production costs are low. Their cost of consumables, spare parts and stuff, they're quite low. So that's how those industries died. Now, our leaders have not realized, that is on top of the fact that, when people get into government, they want to employ their, children and people, into these parastatals and stuff like that. That's what happens. Even today, it's happening. Yeah. They want to give jobs to their supporters and loyal people who are loyal to them, to run these parastatals and stuff. That's what is happening. Every decision is not made based on what is best for the company, but decisions are based on what is best for the party. This is where we are. And the UPND are playing the same politics. Yeah. They're not doing anything different.
Everything that we've condemned.
Yeah.
We have a tradition here where we review presidents. I'm glad that you read a lot and you read widely and probably you've read about our country. Let's start with Dr. Kaunda. What do you think he did well? What do you think were his mistakes? What could have been done better?
I think if you read the story of Africa, what the mistakes like Dr. Keke did was peer pressure. Whatever he was doing, one part state, it was happening in Ghana, it was happening in Cote d'Ivoire, it was happening in Malawi, in Tanzania, everywhere. These guys were talking, let's create one part state. Let's be authoritarian. You see, the people need to understand, the history of Africa. The Berlin Conference, where Africa was demarcated, created, imbalances, I can call them imbalances, because you people who ideally were not living under one governance systems, they were forced to live under one governance system, from different cultures, different tribes, different, way of doing things. They had to be run by one guy. Probably a guy from Eastern Province now had to run the whole system. About Western Province, people he doesn't even understand. That's why you find today, one of the effects of, the demarcation of Africa is that today, the Kalonga Gawaundi is a chief of the people of the chair of Eastern Province in Zambia, the chair of Mozambique, and the chairs on Malawi. You know why? Because when these whites were demarcating, they didn't care that the chairs live here, so let's make sure that the chairs are in one place. They were just demarcating because this is where we want our resources. You get the point? So in other countries like Nigeria, these divisions have actually, they've been so bad. You have other countries like Sudan. Sudan was finally, cut into two, the South Sudan and Sudan. Because, there was the north where there were Muslims, the south Christians. You get the point? You have countries like Niger. Ambassador, these things, you were at the African Union, You've got countries like Niger, where there's a majority Christians and the Muslims. So in some countries, these things have not really worked. Now, in Zambia, one of the things that Keke did very well was to unite the country. Because in other countries, there have been wars, which they have not even settled up to now. Because of these same, tribalism, religious differences, ethnicism, and stuff like that. But in Zambia, Keke did very well. That's why you have things like One Zambia, One Nation. Those things did not come here by accident. They were there because there were problems in other countries. That's why you find that people say, no, but he was an okay president. He maintained the unity of the country. He didn't create divisions and stuff like that. And it's very important. And it's one of the things that almost every president has tried to achieve, And also, we should be lucky, that in this country, we have so many tribes.
Yes.
which has
72.
helped 73 tribes. So it's very difficult for the Chewas to say, us, we want to secede, or us, you know, because there are small pieces of different tribes and stuff like that, you know, with different governance systems and stuff. So KK did well in terms of unity. I think he didn't get to a point where, you know, the country was on fire. On the industrialization, it was a universal mistake. You know, when parastatals were closing down in Zambia, they were closing down everywhere.
Yeah.
I think that's why you hear that, you know, the 1980s, according to the historians, they call it the wasted years of, you know, I think something like that. The lost decade. It's called the lost decade in Africa. Because after I mean, you know, we had almost all the countries got independence from. Ghana was the first, I think, in 1954, and then 57 somewhere there. And then they followed, you know, Nigeria 1960 and what. You know, so then they all went, you know, full throttle, you know, industrialization.
Yeah.
Even if these companies were not making sense, they said, let's just do them. By the time it was 1980s, almost all these companies were falling apart.
Yeah.
So that's why it's called the lost decade, you know.
Dr. Chiluba?
Dr. Chiluba is one of my favorite presidents, not because he was your boss.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think he brought in a different view of politics, you know. Also the liberalization of the economy. I mean, there are things that, I mean, that worked well. I do remember, I mean, we had a lot of challenges, you know, a lot of goods and services, you know, transport, you know. So the liberalization of the economy actually brought in...
Answered to those crises.
Answered to those crises. I mean, Maiseni, people used to line up there to just buy very few commodities, you know, so there was shortages of commodities, UBZ and all those kind of things. So the liberalization worked out well. I think that is, of course, we can say, you know, the fight against corruption probably was not done at a higher level, you know, and also we need to accept the fact that, you know, almost everywhere in Africa, when the privatization process was happening, you know, there was abuse of the processes. You know, a lot of people that were given the responsibility to sell those companies abused the processes. Yeah. You know,
to enrich themselves.
To enrich themselves and stuff.
Loot the property, sometimes sell them at a song.
At a song. And that is what happened, you know, during the 1990s. Mwanawasa is my favorite president. Okay. My number one. I think the man had a heart for the country.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Because I think, I just don't know, I just felt him.
Okay, good.
And I think his years were the best, you know, economically. I went to work in the DRC in 2007. So I used to fly a lot. So you find that even when you're flying on a plane, oh, you're from Zambia, you know, people would say, no, your country is doing well. I remember one time I was on a plane with a South African. We were going to Kinshasa. And then he said, me and my wife are thinking of, you know, moving to Zambia. Yeah, so I think Mwanawasa really tried. I always say that he didn't have the best ideas. But governance, you know, he really put his foot down. He didn't do a lot of politics, but focused on trying to perform. RB did well to maintain, you know, the fundamentals. You know what I mean? He did well to maintain the fundamentals of the economy and all that kind of thing. President Sata started the, you know, infrastructure project, which was very good. Although we feel sometimes that some of these infrastructures were misplaced. I don't know whether it was the change in dynamics of politics, you know, which put pressure on those that were in government, you know, to do certain things. Obviously, then President Lungu took over, continued with infrastructure programs and all that kind of thing. Obviously, you know, there were some dissatisfactions from a cross-section of the people, which led to the PF losing elections in 2021. Overall, what I can say is that, you know, I know we like to blame people in the past. like, no, this government, they messed up and what. I look at these people and say, you know what? Do you know that there have been some countries that have been at war? And they have actually created a government of national unity with people who were rebels for the sake of the country.
Yeah.
You know? I'm not trying to say it's wrong to point at what happened. But like I mentioned earlier, you see, the focus of the UPND in blaming the PF and also in telling the country that only debt restructuring is going to happen, is going to help the country, has put us in a mess.
Yeah, yeah, big one.
You know, in terms of the food security of the country. This is the mess hasn't even started. I must warn the country that you see the problems of food security have not started. It will be bad. And for the president to actually declare this a national disaster, you know, it means that he, you know, it's the projections are bad. I mean, he was saying that 86 out of 114 districts are affected. You see, so anyway, I was talking about blaming the past. So, you know, people need to understand that we need to build from where we pick up things. Continuity. We need to build. We cannot every day be saying, no, the PF did this, the PF did this, the PF did that. And then we are not actually doing anything ourselves. Because to be honest, all of us, I for one, I mean, I'm on record, I used to hammer PF in diggers. Oh, yes. You know, I used to write in diggers and I used to hammer PF. And we knew what the problems were. Debt was part of the problem. Yeah. You know, climate change, we all wrote about this. You know, we wrote about, you know, dealing with the exchange rate. You know, the president even said, no, when I'm sunny, in the morning, 14 hours, we're good. Yeah. It's 2.5 years. And that brings me to President Hichilema. What's your review of him? You know, so the review is that of course, I mean, the PF were losing it at some point. You know, there was so much instability, you know. I don't know, it probably is also the acrimonious side of the politics of that time. You know, politics also, when they overtake, even the opposition, they don't help the government. You know, when there's so much confusion in the opposition. And political tension. There's so much political tensions. You know, people become insecure, they start making wrong decisions and stuff like that. So, with a takeover of President Hichilema, you know, there's some level of stability, some level of confidence, which is being lost. I think President HH in the first 1 year, he had a lot of goodwill, you know, which he could have used. He squandered the opportunity. I think he squandered it. And the biggest worry for me is there's no plan. That I can assure you. I listened to him last year carefully, and I saw that there's no plan. You know, and I wrote an article where I said judgment here. Yeah. And I still insist, whether drought or no drought, this is the judgment here of the UPND. People will determine this year. There's nothing you can do in 2025 and 2026. This is the year. But he said, I mean, we're going to be on a home run. But he was saying that, I don't know what I did. No. What you did wrong was that there was no plan, you know. Yeah. So... up to now, we don't know. I don't know their economic recovery plan. I've never seen it in one single document. What I was saying is that we knew what we're getting. I mean, I ran for president myself. I knew that, okay, this is what the PF are getting wrong. This is what the PF are messing up when I'm elected in the unlikely event that time, you know, that I was going to be president. I had a plan, you know, that this is what I'm going to do. You know, we wrote about those things. We posted them on our social media platforms. Yes. We shared widely what we were going to do. So for them, 2.5 years, say, no, the PF did this, the PF messed up. To be honest, it doesn't hold water anymore. Time up, you know. So President HH has built this confidence in the West, which I don't like, actually. I think they don't understand that actually these guys, they've been responsible for a lot of our problems. I don't have a problem with the West. Yeah. I don't have a problem with America or British or ever. Or China. All I want is that we need to realize that we need to sit and relook how things have been. Yes. There's no way. Their countries are developing, you know, their employment rates are less than 5%. Our employment rates are over 90%. And this has been perpetually. You know, they will come with all these kind of ideas. They first of all advised Africa on the industrialization. When things didn't work out, they came and said, sell. When they said, no. You guys, if you want money from us, democracy. Democracy, in the same process of democracy, these people that believe in supporting people like dictators, when it suits them the most. When they see that this dictator's opponent maybe is a pro-Russian, they would rather support a dictator than the same people that tell you that let's go for democracy.
In fact, this brings me to this point. Being a political leader and a presidential candidate, on our foreign policy, what are your views? Because there have been major issues in Ukraine-Russian war and the recently Israel-Palestine war.
I think the biggest disaster of the UPND is the foreign policy. I think it has also held our debt restructuring program. There was no way the UPND were going to align themselves with the West when they owe a lot of money to the East. How was the East going to come to the party easily? I mean, they could play strings. And these guys, if they understood well, they should have understood that, Africa has been a pawn in all these things.
These global sectors.
In these global sectors. So the best, foreign policy would be non-aligned. Don't give the Americans, all your attention. So no, us will be aligned to America or be aligned to China or Europe. Be non-aligned. Don't be a pawn. Zambia is a pawn right now. When the war was happening in Angola between UNITA and MPLA, Augustino Neto and the president who took over, America was sponsoring Jonas Savimbi.
Yes.
And people were dying. Jonas Savimbi was a rebel. But the Americans were sponsoring Jonas Savimbi.
Despite his status.
When the Liberian president, a dictator,
Samuel Doe in Liberia.
Is it Samuel Doe? He was supported by Americans. Even when he rigged the election, they said, no, at least there's progress. They didn't want to accept. They supported Mobutu in Zaire, the Americans. When it suited them most. So we need a leadership that is going to disengage, from the past. Bravery. So we need to just put our foot down. And see, what we need to do, we need to stop traveling, going around the globe, save that money and start buying ARVs.
Put it in the economy.
Put the money in ARVs so that when we tell the Americans that no, we don't like this, you say, no, we're going to stop giving you ARVs. The money from flying around is there to buy ARVs. I was shocked. That's why I said that, the president's address was a joke. Because, to be honest, maybe I'm ignorant. I've been thinking that this government has been saving money, from business classes, from huge delegations, from, a lot of, what do you call these meetings people in the civil service have?
Workshops.
Workshops. He's saying, no, I was telling my cabinet colleagues to say, we need to start saving. How can people be flying business from here to Johannesburg? The same man, when he was in the opposition, they used to even get pictures of him in the plane, say, look at him, he's in the economy. He's going to America. You got a point? What's wrong with people going to America in economy class, in this broke country? These are people, ideally, civil servants are poor people. You get a point? Why should they be flying business? He's talking about, people fly business from here to Johannesburg. So is it okay for them to fly business from Johannesburg to the US?
Yes, that's what it means. That endure this lack of luxury.
For example, a business class ticket, I haven't checked, to America could be maybe $3,000. Why can't a person just go maybe a day before and save the country almost $1,500? They'll just pay accommodation for one night, which is maybe $150 to $200. You get the point? So I just find that to be like, what? So these guys, they've been portraying this. The president, when he came into power, he was flying, he was flying in commercial. And the whole world these are the presidents we
commercial
want.
twice.
You got a point? But he's now talking about, say, no, I was talking to the cabinet colleagues, say, we need to cut down. No. We expect it. So the point I was trying to drive is that we need a government that is going to say, you know what, like a Sankara kind of government. Cut down all unnecessary costs. All of them. You know, we have heard about, you know, overpriced tenders in the agriculture sector. I read in the papers, is it Mr. Nkulukusa?
Felix Nkulukusa,
He's a
Secretary to Treasury.
He said
he
that
has warned, I saw,
the Minister of Agriculture.
Yeah, that in fact the debt reschedule program is threatened because of how we're handling the
procurement processes in the agriculture sector. What does that mean? It means that there's corruption there.
Yeah.
You see? There is corruption, but it's okay as long as these people, they funded the party. You know what I mean? As long as they funded the party, they can be corrupt. They can actually they can be a single-sourced use of Tazama pipeline. You get the point? You know, they can get oil deals and stuff like that. So the UPND government is not helping this country.
Yeah.
And I'm very afraid that, you know, they've done 2.5 years. They're just giving us stories. The same man who was saying no stories from the bar is the one who's giving us stories.
The biggest stories.
You get the point?
Yes.
So what we need is a revolutionary government. Cut down everything. You know, I was talking to Andrew Kamanga the other day, and then we were just chatting about the mining sector, where he was saying, you know what, I met a person from Panama, you know, where, you know, they're saying that, you know, the agriculture sector, I mean, the mining sector contributes 5% to the GDP. And that's why they can afford to switch off FQM.
Yeah.
They don't play games.
Yeah.
And I checked the numbers. It's true. It's about 5%. 80% of the economy is on service sector, tourism, you know, and all other services. Now, our economic system has been built in a way that the Minister of Finance actually, who should actually step aside with all due respect, you know, to give, you know, a chance to young people who might think differently, you know, proudly says that, you know, most of our forex comes from what? You know, the mining sector, 90% or whatever. We should not, the economy cannot run on one sector. We need to start building modern financial services sectors here in this country. There is a whole lot of city market, Kulima Tower, you know, all these markets, everyone is unbanked.
Yeah.
We need to invest in infrastructure in those places so that, you know, those people can have proper trading places. You know, if the bank wants to sign them up, they can have, you know, find them. You cannot go to city market and you find someone who's selling on the ground there, akachasa kapansi, agulisa kapela tomato or beans or something. How can the bank do a KYC there? Yeah. But if they've got a proper shop, you know, and the shop is properly labeled, you know, they have submitted proper documents to city council or whoever the private partner who is running the city market, you know, Emmanuel Mwamba, shop 201. Yeah. The bank can do a proper KYC. We can put deliberate policies to ensure that, you know, new markets are cashless. Yeah. So that money goes through the banking system. When we do that, the people that are going to be in those markets, they'll have an opportunity to get loans from the banks because their transactions will be what? Will be recorded all the time. You know? So we're not thinking in those lines. The agriculture sector, 2.5 years, there's nothing, there's not even, I was hoping the president said, no, we have actually have, you know, some trials we're doing in the village sectors. We have designed this. There are a lot of brilliant young people that can actually, we don't have to distract or to distort the way people live, the way the colonialists did to us. Yeah, yeah. We need to build solutions around the culture of people, where they are. Build solutions. How do we build irrigation systems? Yeah. In the villages, you know, where the villagers are able to irrigate, they're able to produce cabbage, they're able to produce tomatoes, they're able to produce rape. Yeah. Yeah. There are countries like Botswana. My friend was telling me, say, but you guys, we are a desert. Yes. We don't even eat vegetables. Why don't you supply us vegetables? You get the point? Yeah, great opportunity. We've got great opportunities. We've got Congo here. There was a time when I was living in Kinshasa, you know, there was a time we used to, I don't know how much the cabbage is now. There was a time we used to buy cabbage for $15. One head. Yeah. I went to the embassy. I told them, look, guys, I mean, there's an opportunity here. No, we are waiting for trade agreements, what. So what we need as a country is a revolutionary government, something that is going to break. Something that is going to tell the Americans to actually say, you know what, we can't accept this. You, cobalt metals, we can't accept you owning the technology and not licensing it. What does that mean? It means that you're going to own the whole country of minerals because only your technology can find. And these guys, they're so excited about this. When they are going to lease the country for the next 50 years to cobalt metals.
No, they get very excited about foreign investment. You know, they even put numbers that we doubt you as accountant and auditors must tell. For example, they put up figures that, you know, in 2023 they had received $37 billion, you know, foreign investment pledges. But for me, is how much did that translate to?
But you see, when they're talking about foreign investment, you're talking about probably Zambian borrowings, they brought in 200 million. You know, maybe Mopani brought in, I mean, not Mopani, which we don't know who the owners. FQM brought in maybe 500 million, you know, for their new mines, you know. So if you look at it carefully, you find that probably 75% of that is, or 90% is based
accounted for.
It's based on existing companies, not new companies. But again, even if it was new companies, why are we excited about bringing new companies when we need to actually empower Zambians? You know, there's no apologies. We need to empower Zambians.
When Mopani, now that you've raised the issue of Mopani, when Mopani was announced that they had found an equity partner who was going to invest, I think, $1.1 billion, you wrote a paper demanding answers. What was the issue? We haven't first received the answers to our query. What was the issue is that this company is not known. International Resources Holdings is not known. We don't know who the shareholders are. It's registered in Abu Dhabi. It's restricted, you know, so you can't search on that company. So, for example, if a politician in Zambia is a shareholder, you can't know today. You know, but you see, this is a partner of a government organization like ZCCMIH. There should be full disclosure.
There should be full disclosure. So ZCCMIH should know who because when you're doing a due diligence of international sales, you should know who the shareholders are. Even the person who owns 1%, you want to know whether they're a terrorist or they're not a terrorist. Whether this money they're putting in is sponsored by terrorist organization or not. Because terrorists also, they're investors. They invest money into these businesses so that they can finance
They clean their money.
They clean their money and they continue to finance their
so when you say IRH is not known, what do you mean that is not known?
First of all, there was a claim that is part of International Holdings Company, which is another Abu Dhabi big company. But it's not even part of that. There's another company which owns IRH, which is in the process of being bought by International Holdings Company. So they
borrowed credibility of an existing company.
They borrowed
and in your search,
a transaction that is not even complete. And if you look at that company, I've just forgotten, what is the name of the company? I've forgotten. You know, if you look at IRH on that company, it's not even their main business that International Holdings Company they're buying. It's a new company. You know, mining is a new venture. You know, so people just say, no, you know, because what we need is money, so let's focus on getting the money and stuff like that. So anyway, you see, the UPND government, I mean, they promised to be transparent as a hallmark of accountability. But they have failed to do that. The government, when we ask them, they say, no, go use the ATI bill, access to information. How do we use access to information? Why can't you just give us information? Why should we be wasting our energies, you know, fighting?
If you have the answers.
If you've got the answers. So you can imagine, you know, these are some of the, you know, problems that we have. They are wasting time fighting PF, you know, destroying PF, and when they appear on TV, they want to say, how do we get involved?
It's not us, it's an opposition matter. It's an internal matter.
It's an internal matter. You know, why are you accusing us? I mean, they think that they're dealing with children. You get the point? Now, one thing the UPND need to understand is that we live in the information age. We live in the information age. We read, first of all. We know how politics is done in Africa, which people are getting tired of. People are getting tired of this kind of politics where government or people in government want to abuse government institutions to
abuse
actually
the opposition.
To abuse the opposition. So I was reading a statement by Jackson Slavi last week to say, no, we gave them UKA. They said this name is not available without giving any reason. That's abuse of government institutions.
Yeah.
Give UKA the name. Let them compete. You compete with them. So you want, people are tired of this. The PF tried these tricks. They were kicked out.
Yeah.
You get the people don't learn. The problem with these people, they think that the biggest competition they have is the PF or people who are part of PF. I can assure them that's not their competition.
Who is their competition?
The people of Zambia.
They would have been playing politics with the people of Zambia.
They should,
if they knew.
The thing is that the UPND were messed up their goodwill. If you look at their voting, the historical voting pattern of the UPND, they have never performed well in Eastern Province. They had never performed well in Northern Province. They had never performed well in Mchinga. They have never performed well in the Copper Belt, in Lusaka as well. They got the mandate from a cross-section of the country.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It meant that they needed to take advantage of that mandate. It meant it was a signal that the people of Zambia are not interested in politics.
In the kind of politics that were being played.
They're interested, as long as economic development is not at the center of any political party, they will be kicked out.
Yeah.
They messed up that. They have continued with the same kind of politics. One of the reasons why Africa is underdeveloped is when you get into government, you want to appoint so many permanent secretaries and put them as operations. They don't even have jobs, those guys.
Yeah.
They just sit at cabinet office, so they don't even go for work.
Yeah.
As long as they were campaigning with the president and stuff like that, they're just given government vehicles, they draw a salary, they draw fuel, and stuff like that. Those politics are gone.
Yeah.
That's the reason why the UPND is not performing. And I can assure you, and I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell the people of Zambia. First of all, you remember I took a break for 2 years. I wanted to give people a chance to do the work.
Yeah. Many people noticed that you were quiet actually in the last 2 years.
So I gave them a chance, but I can also tell the people of Zambia that they should not expect much from the UPND. They should actually start searching for the alternative, and we need fresh blood, fresh brains. We need to take this country. We have an opportunity as a country. The last election showed us that people are not interested in tribalism. They're not interested in politics. The reason why President HH was voted because they thought that economically
he's going to
change things. The problem is that he has continued with the politics of Africa. He should have detached himself from that. He should have built an inclusive government, a government that is made up of people with different ideas, who are going to give him ideas. He must listen, and implement, try this, try that, try this, and try that. I was saying that the reason why we don't develop as a country, as Africa, is because of just wanting to work with people that are loyal. We don't build a platform where talent is put ahead of politics. So even if you're talented, even if you are the solution to this country, because you, Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba, were part of PF, you will not see the end of the day in UPND. Even if you can sort out the problems that this country has. Even me, even if I've got the solutions to the energy sector, I've got the solutions to the financial services sector, things I'm passionate about, as long as I'm in the opposition. Because people, they just want to be praised. That's the reason why, in Africa, you find that state-owned media, the first headline is the president, the wife, the vice president, the minister, Chakuti, the party secretary
and
general.
And use the president.
Same with the newspapers and all of them. Because that is what they are used to. They need to be praised. That's how you look good. But you see, people are moving, have evolved. If people cannot get meal at a good price, they can't get fuel at a good price, they cannot import things with a good exchange rate. If the cost of living is high, if the young people cannot get jobs, and they don't see how they're going to get jobs, there's no hope, and they can just see that all you're doing is politics, guaranteed. Prepare your exit. Now, we're living in an age where presidents will be running just one term. No matter, they can't rig. They can't rig the system because people will decide, so, okay, 5 years, there's nothing we've done. Let's try something else. Look at how fast it happened with PF. 2011, there was a change of government. 10 years later, there's a change of, there's opposition again. Now it's coming to 5 years.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Andyford, Banda, I think you've given us some interesting sights, and we've seen, your love for this country, your passion for this country as an entrepreneur and also a politician. I think you've given us valuable insights. What are your last words before we close?
I think the people of Zambia, deserve better. We need to build an economy that, is going to be run by Zambians. That is what we need to do. We cannot depend on taxes to build the country. Only if profits of Zambians are reinvested in this country shall we build that country. Shall we see meaningful development. We need to be brave enough and tell our friends, the Americans, the Chinese, the Europeans, to say, you know what, our economic structure is not working for us. We cannot be pleasing these guys. These guys cannot just be leaving 30% and taking 70% away. And yet in their countries, rather taking the 70%, their governments are collecting there, and they have got in-country companies that are also contributing. And they are not only contributing, the taxes to the government, they're investing the money in their country. So the system that the UPND of, jumping around in the name of economic diplomacy, bringing investors, no plan to empower Zambians, to own and run the economy, the means of production, is wrong. Let's be brave and talk to the Americans. But we need to have a strategy. Because, you see, I was telling you about the story of Panama, where the copper mine, the mining sector contributes 5% of the GDP. In this country, we cannot afford to switch off the mines because that's the only source of income that we have. So the only time that we'll be able to tell these people off is when we are able to do what? To reduce dependence on the mining sector. It's saddening that every time you listen to the Minister of Finance, all he talks about is mining as a source of everything. It is not going to be the solution for this country. I've said that before. I've written about this. That the mining sector is not going to be the solution. The UPND must be a genius to just rely on one sector to change this country. I was happy with what the president said in the last address in December, where he talked about how we can build an economy based on production of maize, because we've got demand from Congo. We've been closing borders, arresting smugglers and stuff like that. But why can't we give water to people so that they can produce and we can be exporting? We can have two youths every day. We can just be exporting maize. Maize can be our new copper. Just maize. Maize is needed in Sudan. It's needed in a lot of countries. So let's give land. Let's redistribute the land. I've got land about 80 hectares. I don't use 80 hectares. I can't even use more than 10 hectares. Come and get part of that land. And give it to other people so that a lot of people can get into these things. Let's empower them, with equipment and facilities such as irrigation system, so that we can produce. It's the simplest thing. This is a solution that can actually be done within a week.
Period.
You can go to a village, for example, my village in Katete there. People have got 5 hectares, 10 hectares of land. Go and drill a water system there in the next 1 week. By the other week, they'll start planting. You understand how simple it is? And maize is the easiest. It can be done. So I don't know what these farmers have been busy doing, running this country without actually providing this. Problem, when people want to look so intelligent and they come up with complicated solutions. No, some things are just easy. One of the reasons why I've been saying that, look, our economy has been infiltrated by a lot of foreign people. Not that we are being xenophobic. They're taking away the dollars. Everyone just comes here, they'll start selling cars along Kafio Road, and the investors. When they make their profit, they're taking away the...
Yeah, yeah.
And our own car dealers are suffering. So let's change that. So what I'm saying is that as a final message to the people of Zambia is that, look, the only way that we can change things is to depart from the past systems. Come up with new systems that are Zambian focused. We need to face the Americans. We need to face the British or the Europeans. We need to face the Chinese and tell them, look, we want to build our own economy. The Americans, they're building their industries of electric vehicles. They will need copper. So there's nothing they can do about it. They will need our copper. You get the point? The same with the Chinese. They will need our copper. So let them not be twisting us as if they will say, okay, fine, we're not going to get your copper. We'll close our electric vehicles. These guys have been getting raw materials from Africa for a very long time. You get the point?
Yes.
They need these raw materials. We cannot change the system they have built where their industries are advanced. But we can change one thing. We can have the raw materials owned and run by the locals. That's what we need to do. So that they can have the advanced system. But let's own the raw materials. Let's own the raw materials. Let's give them to build EVs, and send back those cars. But let's own the raw materials. That is my cry. Last but not the least. We cannot build a country based on income tax or any taxes for that matter. Zambians
on that.
must own the means of production. They will invest the money in this country. The mentality of Zambians can't run big mines is a colonial mentality, because that's what they told you. In fact, in colonialism, Africans were not allowed to study certain things like being a doctor and engineer and stuff. They were told you're not able to do that. When people were fighting for independence, they told them you're not able to manage these things. So we should continue. You'll be in charge, but let's continue. So that we can help you run these things. You get the point? Now, these young people, I don't know whether they don't read or they've got a wrong mindset, or it's because their government is not doing what they're supposed to do. In defending their government, they're saying, no, Zambians can't run that. I said, go to Copper Belt Energy Corporation. That's a Zambian-owned company.
It? Complex
it's a Zambian energy company that is multinational, run by Zambians, making millions of dollars in profit, giving their shareholders dividends. Go to ZESCO. Debt, 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 debt. Losses. Because politics, contracts to cadres, employing cadres in the system and stuff like that. So what we need is a Zambian-run economy, Zambian running the means of production, Zambians will invest the money in here. This is a fight that we're going to take to 2026. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I wish you good luck with future interviews.
Now we'll bring you back to come and discuss maybe a specific topic or a specific event. That's the purpose of the conversation.
Sure.
But today we took time to profile our country through your lenses. And I think you've done such a wonderful idea. I love your bubbling ideas, many of them, especially in the sectors that we've talked about: mining, agriculture, entrepreneurship, what we need to do with our education system. I think you did very well, and our viewers have, I can guarantee you, enjoyed this discourse. So to our dear viewers, until we have another guest, until we have another conversation, thank you for joining us. God bless this country. God bless Zambia. Until next time, shalom, shalom.